The trailer wastes no time introducing Joseph Zada as a younger Haymitch, and honestly, the energy he brings is completely different from anything we've seen in the franchise before. He has this quiet intensity, a mix of fear and defiance, almost like he already knows he's about to become the capital's worst nightmare. The story is set 24 years before Katniss Everdeen ever volunteers. And that alone opens the door to a version of Panem that feels both familiar and totally reimagined. Visually, the film leans into a bold 1970s-inspired aesthetic, with grainy colors, retro tech touches, and a moodier tone that sets it apart from the sleek Capitol glam we're used to. Even in the quick cuts of the teaser, you can feel the raw chaos of the second quarter quell. One of the most exciting surprises in the trailer is the lineup of beloved characters returning in younger forms. Elle Fanning steps in as a young Effie Trinket, and instead of the flamboyant Capitol icon we know, she appears far more restrained, almost like she hasn't yet perfected her signature persona. Then there's Jesse Plemons as Plutarch Heavensbee, whose calm, calculating presence immediately hints at layers we've never seen before. And of course, Ralph Fiennes as President Snow. This casting alone has fans buzzing. He brings the cold precision but the heart of the film is undeniably Haymitch's personal journey. For longtime fans, the second quarter quell is legendary, not just because Haymitch won it, but because of how he won it. The trailer briefly hints at his strategic brilliance, showing flashes of the arena, the traps, and the deadly twists that made this quell one of the bloodiest in Hunger Games history. There's a moment where Haymitch looks around the arena with a mix of horror and calculation, and that single shot says everything. You're watching a boy forced to become a tactician just to stay alive. This prequel isn't just filling in backstory, it's reframing everything we thought we knew about one of the series' most important characters. The trailer also highlights the emotional stakes surrounding Haymitch's relationships, especially with Maisie Donner, played by McKenna Grace. Fans of the books know exactly how vital she is to his story, and the glimpses we get show a powerful bond that seems to anchor Haymitch in the middle of chaos. Then we see Whitney Peak, bringing fresh energy into the cast in a role that appears both fierce and compassionate. These dynamics create a tone that feels more intimate and character-driven, even as the violence and spectacle escalate. Director Francis Lawrence seems to be balancing the action with emotional depth in a way the franchise is known for, but with a darker, more mature twist. Francis Lawrence returning to direct is a major confidence booster for fans. After giving us Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, he's proven he can handle the scale, the politics, and the emotional grit of this world. What's interesting is that the development of this film began at the exact same time as Suzanne Collins' novel. They were created side by side, which almost guarantees that the movie's interpretation isn't just faithful, it's woven directly into the DNA of the story. Billy Ray's screenplay feels poised to deliver something rich, thoughtful, and layered, especially with a cast this stacked. Speaking of the cast, the ensemble is wild. Glenn Close appears as Drusilla Sickle, a Capitol figure whose presence in the trailer feels chilling even in silence. Kieran Culkin plays a young Caesar Flickerman, and the idea of seeing how Panem's most iconic show host developed his extravagant persona is honestly brilliant. Maya Hawke and Kelvin Harrison Jr. appear as Wyrus and Beatty, offering early hints of the genius and fragility we meet later in the original trilogy. Each casting choice feels intentionally connected to the role's future versions, creating this seamless continuity that ties the entire franchise together across decades. The trailer's tone also suggests that this movie won't shy away from the brutality and manipulation of the Capitol. In several quick shots, we see glimpses of how the Capitol shapes tributes, crafts narratives, and builds the spectacle that Panem eventually becomes obsessed with. There's an especially striking moment showing Capitol citizens cheering wildly with a disturbing level of excitement, contrasting sharply with the terror the tributes feel. Moments like these highlight the growing cruelty and propaganda machine that Snow will later perfect. It all adds up to a world that feels more dangerous, more political, and more psychologically intense than ever. Another standout aspect is the film's visual design. Everything feels grittier, more analog, and more grounded. The arena glimpses in the trailer hint at practical, physical traps, rather than the hyper-digital environments of later games. This makes the danger feel shockingly real. The costume work leans into early capital experimentation, showing fashion that hints at the flamboyance of later years, but still feels raw and developing. Combined with the score's haunting retro undertones, the film almost feels like a time capsule inside the Hunger Games universe. And that vibe makes the stakes feel even heavier, because we know exactly where Panem is heading. By the end of the trailer, one thing is clear. Sunrise on the Reaping isn't just another prequel. It's a deep excavation of a character fans have always wanted to understand, wrapped inside one of the most brutal games ever designed. It bridges the emotional gap between the prequel book, the original films, and the entire legacy of Panem. With the film set to hit theaters on November 20th, 2026, the anticipation is only going to build from here. And if this first trailer is any indication, we're about to witness one of the darkest, most gripping, and most character-driven entries in the franchise yet. Stay tuned, because The Reaping has only just begun. Imagine waking up in Panem on the morning of a Prequel, feeling the entire nation hold its breath as the capital prepares to rewrite the rules of survival once again. Now picture that tension exploding onto your screen in the very first teaser for the Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping. That's exactly what Lionsgate just unleashed, and fans are already losing their minds. From the very first frame, the trailer throws us straight into the origin story of one of the franchise's most unpredictable legends, Haymitch Abernathy. This isn't the Haymitch you remember from Woody Harrelson's brilliant, cynical performance. This is the young, sharp, calculating Haymitch stepping